2025, it's over. And I'm sure a lot of you out there are saying, thank goodness that it's over. A year of change, a year of disruption, a year of chaos. If you look at numerology, it was also a 9 in numerology, which means completion, the things were finishing up. And I think we saw some of that with some of the changes in structure. If you look at astrology, which I dabble in a little bit, for 25 years, Saturn was in Capricorn. Saturn likes rules and structure, and Capricorn is the place to be for that, because Capricorn says, do this, do this, do that. We like organization. We like structure. We like somebody else to tell us what to do. Boom. That 25-year cycle ended. It takes Saturn 25 years to go into another sign. It's now in Aquarius, which is showing us that a lot of the old systems are breaking down. So what does that mean for us personally? It means that some of our old systems are breaking down, and it's the year of completion. This 2026 is starting again. So what are you leaving behind that no longer serves you? Before I have my conversation with Nathaniel, I'll introduce myself. I am Teresa Palmer. I'm a holistic cardiology nurse practitioner. I work a lot with transformation. And by that, I connect individuals to their heart. And when you are connected to your heart, you are able to have lasting change through transformation. So that's a little bit about what I do. I'm also a contributing author to Own It magazine. I've written my own book, Heal Your Heart from Within, and I'm guest hosting this program. So now I'm going to turn it over to my partner here, Nathaniel, and he could introduce himself and we'll get the conversation started.
Okay, I'm Nathaniel Ross, Abundance Legacy, Inc., which is a nonprofit educational organization. We help people with personal growth and development. And that's what we're talking about here on this show.
Okay, Nate. So how was 2025 for you? Do you feel like you're leaving some things behind that no longer serve you? Or what are you bringing into 2026, or are things staying the same for you?
I left a whole lot of things in 2025. I left America to live in Thailand. So everything that I had known for 60 plus years, I left behind. And I'm learning a new culture, new language, meeting new people from around the world. And there was a lot that did not serve me in 2025. So it's no point in carrying that into 2026. So on each level, whether it's from a spiritual perspective or health, me coming to Thailand, I have a whole different outlook on health, and I'm a lot healthier than the lifestyle that I lived in America. So, on all levels, spiritually, health, family, community, work, everything I left behind everything. So it's new beginnings, right? And from the cycle of things, there's always a start, there's always a beginning. And you talk about the number 9. I had to learn, whether it's numerology, astrology, card reading, it doesn't matter. There's an invisible and energetic world that exists that we don't see. And you can choose whatever means or method in order to tap into it, but the message is going to be consistent from all of them. So it's really up to you as an individual. If you're going to change to understand, learn and understand that there's a tangible physical world, there's also a spiritual world that's intangible. And I'm tapping into that as well. So
Yeah, I agree with you. There's so much more that we can't see. And
yeah.
we only see what is literally in front of our eyes or in our vision. But there's also the intuition, there's also these subtle energies. And a lot of things that happen with us happen through these subtle energies, tapping into it. And a lot of it has to do even with emotions. Emotions not only have to do with our feelings, but it also has to do with our spirit. So when we could connect to ourselves and our feelings, we could tap into what's good for us, what serves us, and what doesn't serve us. There was a lot in 2025 for me also that went on. And there were a lot of things that I just had to surrender. And I know when you say that word, a lot of people think, oh, surrender means to give up. No, it doesn't. It means not to push because certain things can't be pushed. They have to happen in their own time. And again, that has to do with this subtle energy. You know, if you want to call it time, whatever you want to call it, there is a place and there's also a time for everything. And when something doesn't work out, it's not because we have to push and try to get it. It means hold on, wait, because perhaps if we were to push and get it, it may not be in our best interest. And again, that's where all these subtle energies, listening to yourself, knowing who you are, come in. So when you went to Thailand, you already had a group in Thailand, correct?
No. Well,
Oh,
let
okay.
me. When I moved here, yes, I came out to visit for 6 weeks, and I met a group of people when I was here. So when I came back, I did tap into that social group, and that
Okay.
yeah. And I would not advise anyone that's going anywhere. You're going to have a group of people to interact and deal with, right? So um, that was part of my visiting to establish that building of community before I actually relocated here.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think that places also have to resonate. And there's actually a part of astrology that deals with that that's called cartio cardiography, I think it's called, which is the astrology of location. And what that is what resonates with you. And, you know, there's certain because of your birth sign, where the planets were when you were born, the energy, so to speak. There's places in the world that resonate with us, and that's individual, and there's places that don't. Um, I moved because I had to, and it was not my choice. It was never something that was on my radar. It just wasn't something I thought about. And I moved just to a different part of the United States. But in that different part of the United States was very different. And I have to say that I've been here probably a total of about really 6, 7 years because I did go back to my previous residence for a while to go back to work. I have to say that I've never really adjusted to this. And when we are looking to move, and we're looking for a beach. So when I looked at that, I actually had a consultation with someone who is an expert in this field of astrology. His name is Gemini Brett. And when he looked at the whole global chart and the energy, he said, no wonder you have trouble adjusting. There's nothing there for you. There's nothing that resonates with who you are. Now, if I could have visited ahead of time, I probably would have seen that, but I didn't. It was a work related thing, and there really wasn't much of a choice in the matter. So I give you a lot of credit to go into another part of the world, but you actually did it in a way where you started to establish yourself before you made the move. If you wanted to elaborate on any of that, how starting anew, like what did you do when you started anew?
Well, you talk about frequencies and being able to tell the uh, something resonating with you. When I stepped off the plane to come visit, one of the first things I said out of my mouth to my cousin is, "I'm home." And
Okay.
he looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "I'm home." It just it felt right just getting off the plane for vacation. And then my response to him after being here about a week and a half, we stayed 6 weeks. And I said, "I'm not going back because I am at peace here."
Uh-huh.
And then reality kicked in. It's like, I got to go back and sell my house and cars and do all this stuff to actually move over here. But it resonated with me. You feel it, right? We vibrate, the frequencies were vibrating, the land, the people, everything vibrated when we were in harmony with each other. So it was
Yeah.
very easy for me to say, okay, I'm going to do this, right?
Right.
Um, and I don't know if I ever shared with you, but I went to get a massage in America, and the lady did an excellent job, and she's the one that introduced me to energy work because she's been doing this massage, and then she started talking to me about all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, this lady's crazy. I just want to lay here and get a massage. Uh, and she talked throughout the whole massage, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to have an open mind here, and I listened, and long story short, I left from that to getting card reading, to getting astrology getting numerology done, and a whole series of different things, and they all came out to be the same message. And they were from different people from different parts of the U.S., men, women, different races and ethnic groups. So they couldn't have known each other. So that's when I clued in and said, there's an invisible world that's an intangible world that's happening out there that's energetic. And I need to start learning about it and putting some of that stuff into practice. So,
Yeah. In fact, at the crudest level, we're all energy. And you're talking to a person that was trained in science and
yeah.
logic. Uh, so, you know, I started that journey, oh boy, 25 years ago, that there was something that was unseen. And I had done a medical mission in a part of the world that didn't have a lot of resources. And there was a monastery close to our clinic, and one of the monks had a heart attack. And not only did he had a heart attack, but he had a serious heart attack. And I was afraid that he wasn't even going to make it to the hospital, which was a mere 65 miles away. And we had to
Uh,
drive him. So, and he kept telling me that this was just a bump in the road, that he wasn't ready to die, and that he knew he was going to survive. And I thought, well, science is telling me the left side of the heart is where it pumps blood out to the body. Your left side of I'm saying this to myself, the left side of the heart is not
mhm.
working well. Not a lot of blood is going to that body. This is serious. Well, lo and behold, he asked me when he got to the hospital, they said basically there wasn't much they could do. He had a choice to stay or go back to the monastery. He chose the monastery, and he chose to have me come with him. And he said, there's a whole world out there that you know nothing about because you are a person of science and you know nothing about miracles. He said, so I would like you to come back to the monastery with me and stay with me. I did. I didn't expect him to be there in the morning. In fact, I stayed up all night waiting for him to die. And lo and behold, he was stable in the morning. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And what I came to learn through my own spiritual practice, I still study with Sri Dharma Mitra. Um, he's the Raka Yoga. He's a spiritual master that brought a lot of Eastern traditions and Eastern practices into Western culture. He's 85 years old. So I've known him 25 years, and he had been doing this 25 years before I met him. The left side of the heart is really where our spirit resides, and that's our force of life. You can call it the breath of life, the force of life, the chi. That's where our life force actually resides, in the left side of our heart. So to have somebody recuperate from a heart attack, when it damages the left side of the heart, it didn't damage his will to live. So what I learned from that was it wasn't always what we could see, what we know, and what is logical. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes that we're really not privy to. And I have to tell you, it changed my whole practice. It changed the way I approached my cardiology patients, because I've been doing cardiology for over 30 years. And my first 10 years was a very arrogant, science-minded practice where X, Y, and Z, and do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to happen. I started to change a lot of that a lot of it is really up to the individual. It's not to say that what we do medically isn't needed or doesn't help, but a lot of times it is up to that individual, and it's their life force and it's their will to live that really gets them through a lot of things that science says that they shouldn't get to. So I don't share
Mhm.
this story often, but I thought I like the way this conversation is going here, the direction we're taking it, that, I'm sharing it so that our listeners out there could see that on an energetic level, there's a lot that goes on. We're also in our crudest state. We are all energy. It's all electrons, and it's all an exchange of ions, electrons. That's really how medications work. When you look at that, medications change. Uh, this ion goes here and this goes that. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but everything comes down to energy. So I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I hope I didn't scare anybody away from listening to us, because this really is anything to do with woo-woo or magic. It really is all about energy and resonance. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Nate.
Well, yeah, it is about that. It depends on people's belief systems. If you take a person, um, the average person, because I used to use hypnosis and meditation, hypnosis, and martial arts when I was teaching, and I felt there are some people who you can put under just like that. There are other people you can't.
Mhm.
It takes they just it takes more work in order to make it happen. And it's all because of their susceptibility. It's all because of what their belief system is. Um, and I share that because if you're in the hospital and your belief system is that doctor knows everything, and whatever that doctor tells me is the outcome, and the doctor says you got a week to live. If you're weak minded, you got a week to live, and your body's going to listen to that message, and it's going to deliver. And this might get a little more complicated, but we got our subconscious mind and then our conscious mind. And if you've got that weak mind and that weak belief system, and the doctor says, oh, you got a week to live, and you believe that you got a week to live, your subconscious mind's going to try to figure out, how do I make that happen?
Yeah.
Right. And if you got a strong mind, you have a belief system that's strong, and the doctor says you got a week to live, and you're like, oh no, I still have a purpose here. I still,
Mhm.
your subconscious mind is going to help you to perform that miracle that's necessary in order to keep you alive and to keep you going. So and I'm not discounting medicine, because the science can tell you some of what could or might happen. Um, but that spirit, that energy, your beliefs is, you got to believe in yourself to keep you going, right? And the reality of it is, no matter what, you're not going to go until it's your time to go. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you talk about that will to live in the subconscious, in Eastern traditions, they call that your chi or your life force. And that's the force that is always present in us. In some Eastern traditions, they also call the breath the force of life. But this
Hmm.
is something that you really can, to a certain extent, you could master your life. You are the co-creator of your life. In some instances, I also believe that there's a plan that certain things you cannot change, that there are things that are set and that you cannot change them. But there's also things that you can change and things
Hmm.
that you could enhance your life with. So even though you may not be able to totally change something, you could still enhance it. And that's why meditation, breath work, getting to know yourself, understanding your heart, that it's more than a pump and it does more than deliver blood throughout the body. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that because the heart supports life. Without your heart, you can't live. You could be brain dead, and as long as your heart is beating, you have a life. But you can't have your heart stop and keep your brain going for any length of time because the heart is what gives us life. And I think if we start looking at even our heart as more than a pump and looking into these energies, we realize that there's so much more to life. And I think it's the same thing even with astrology, numerology. What happens, there's a saying that says, as above, so below. Now, we're the ones below because as above is the sky, the planets, the universe. And if you look at that, they're all energy too. And we're all made of the same components, which means that in some way we're all interconnected. So things influence. You look at the moon influences the tide. The moon has control over the tide. So look at that. When I
Hmm.
worked mental health many years ago, on a full moon, I could tell you that we had exacerbations of mental illness. We had a lot of things going on because it did affect the mind and the brain. So there is that correlation. And I think when we understand that what we see just in this physical body is not everything there is, I think we open our lives to be much more. And I think that even spreads into things like how much control do you take over your life? Or do you look at an institution, a government, anything like that to be your life? And I think that's what the world is going through now, that we're starting to realize that we could be who we want to be and we have choices with our life. We just have to really make them and take the responsibility. So if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, let me recommend a movie first. Um, Sliding Doors came out a long time ago. But if people get the opportunity to look at that movie, you can see that we have this lifeline. There's a lifeline that goes through. And what the movie demonstrates is that there are certain things that's going to happen at certain times, no matter what. And there are things that you can have control over that will take your life one way or the other. And that's why I really like the movie, because it shows that at this particular intersection in life, someone made a decision and their life was like this. And then it shows making a different decision in their life like this, which paralleled, right? But it always came back on track. So there's certain things that are going to happen in our lives. Like, if I was meant to have a broken arm, it was going to happen whether I played football or not.
Mm.
Um, and you follow that pattern, and once you learn and understand that there are destiny things that you can't help, that you're going to experience and live. And then there are the things that you make decisions about that you have choice over. So I think that would be a good movie for people to see. The other thing is that in terms of, look, life is about choices. You get to choose how you live. And one way that you can look at it is you go to the theater and it's a show. Today, my character is X. And when I no longer feel like being that character, I change. And when the stage curtain goes up, and let me make it more relatable. When I grew up in Baltimore in the inner city ghetto, that was the part that I was playing in life. But I could have chosen to stay there, or I could choose to do something different, that the next time the curtain went up, I had a different role in life, you know? And that's what I did. And I look at my career and it's like, how do you become a best-selling author? How do you get out and do TED Talks? All that stuff was me making decisions that redirected my life. So I chose to play different characters in the next day of life or the next year of life. So people can choose to either just exist and let life happen to them, or people can say, I want to make choices and then live life to its fullest. I don't know if that made sense, but.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense, and I totally agree, because didn't Shakespeare say all the world is a stage, and we are players in the game of life?
Characters in the game. Yeah. Yes.
And I think that's so true that, there are certain things that are going to happen. You see that in health a lot, where people do all the right things, but yet something happens. And a lot of times you can't change that. But at the same time, we also have choices with things, choices where we live, how we do things. And like I said, right now I'm getting ready to get out of the situation that this, where I am right now, isn't where I want to be for the rest of my life. And, making plans to get out of that. But then again, if I never would have had to make the move, I probably never would have realized how important resonance and all that is. Because if you grow up in a certain place and you stay in a certain place, you don't know anything else. When I looked at this location astrology, there wasn't a whole lot of energy or resonance where I was. But because I didn't know better, I didn't know how to make that choice, or that from a resonance perspective, it could have been better. And now I know better. So I just wanted to throw that in. I think our conversation was so enlightening. I mean, we started off with what did we leave behind, and we went into this whole thing about energy, which I think is so, so important. And this is a motivational platform and a stream. So I think it's so important that we did this. And it just shows that we're not scripted. We come here, we have a theme. I always give a theme, and then it takes it wherever it wants to go. And that's just so important, that you don't have to always do the same thing over and over and over, or you don't always have to be the same way. All the world is a stage, and you could play different roles in that stage. You could do different things. Do you have any last words for our listening audience?
I will close out with my tagline for my coaching. Life is about choices. What's yours?
Thank you so much for that. And I hope that people, our listeners, got some inspiration. As always, we do love our listeners, our subscribers, and we hope that when we do these programs, that we're motivating you, giving you information, and perhaps you could make a different choice if what you're doing right now does not serve your best life going forward. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
I have